sort of transitions and passages of time. What's your journey been like as an artist, thinking about how much you've been through and your creative growth at this point? What's your journey look like for you in meeting up to this project that you and the folks have put together for Doom?
I mean, it's it's a journey that's been happening since I could pick up a crown. I guess that's what people would always tell me, like, "Oh, you've been drawing since you could pick up a crayon," and I've always loved to draw. I've always drawn. I've always been inspired by Ninja Turtles, Ghostbusters, Mario Brothers, anime when I was older, and it's influences like that kind of led me to learning about someone like MS Doom. So when a project like this, I'm approached with something like this, it's just like, yeah, these are reflections of things that I've grown to love and things that inspired my own art. So it was like a no brainer to be a part of something like this.
Yeah, man, it's funny because I was telling Crown and Troy that I had gotten into Doom much later than I had hoped. Like my early high school years, I was a sneakerhead, and it's like the early 2000s, and the folks that I hung out with had some really dope, just streetwear. It was hella cool, and there was some artwork on it from Doom, and I'm like, yo, what or who, what was that? And the rest is history, and
Right.
it's so crazy how enigmatic he was, and how many spaces he was able to occupy, right? It wasn't just hip hop. I mean, it was so much cultural influence. And so, what was the start of the project like for you? And jumping into it, where's your head at thinking about this passion project and wanting to do right by him? Because last October, or rather, when we hear about it last December,
Yeah.
it was like a fuck you right at the end of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, I was approached not too long after the news dropped. Crown hit me up and told me that Troy had this idea that was it's like a tribute to Doom. Something that won't necessarily act as like a deep dive into his life, but it will show you key elements and like the key influences that made him who he was. And at the time, I'm in the middle of being like a freelance illustrator and doing like a actual like daytime job. So I'm exhausted for the most part. But when she approached me with the idea, I was like, I feel like this is something I need to make time to do, because just the ideal of more like the challenge of trying to pull it off, trying to pull off Troy's vision, and trying to pay tribute to Doom at the same time. That was like a challenge that I needed. So in my headspace, I was like, this came at the right time. Actually, it came at the right time to kind of lift me up. Trying to lift me up out of my seat.
And it's just super dope the approach y'all took, this sort of chronological tracking of the times and the influence. But like you said, it's not so much a deep dive, but it's just it's still an appreciation from a distance that I think new fans and old fans will appreciate. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Because I don't know that when I brought up Doom to like my cousins who are 18, 19, 20, they're just learning about his influence on people like Tyler and X and like Thundercat and all these incredibly popular artists.
Hmm.
And it was just really cool to see him get the respect that he deserved. Unfortunately, it was so late.
Yeah.
It's like after the fact.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and yeah, go ahead.
Like you said, like you still see his influence in like the majority of like that Odd Future camp. So it's like it was late, but in a way, that legacy still lives on. You know, I mean, granted, their sounds are completely different now compared to what they were doing around that time, but still, like that legacy is still there. It's still embedded in like their own stuff. You know.
Right, and you bring up a good point too, because sonically it's changed, and I think sounds will continue to change, and there'll be subtle hints toward those influences. But visually, it's so crazy how heavy his influence. I think of artists like Cause or the streetwear scene that has so much of that doom infused flavor. Um, and ironically enough, like the mask being the thing that's become celebrity status, even though he was so private, he wanted to stay away. It, in a sense, I mean, probably protected him from that. I don't know. I didn't get to know Doom on as intimate a level as y'all probably did for this project, but what was that like? What was like your favorite part of this project, or maybe some things you found out about Doom you were shocked by or surprised by? Because I know Troy had said, some of the things were kind of like a you don't want to meet your heroes, but we're not all perfect, but at the end of the
Right.
day,
Right. I mean, with me, I will admit that I'm not like a die hard Doom fan. I'm still like a modest Doom fan because I was introduced to him around the time when when M Food dropped, and then I was furthermore introduced with the Danger Mouse collaboration, and that was my introduction to Doom, and then I went back to like Mad Villainy and Operation Doomsday and all that. But it's it's the stuff that I learned just from reading Troy's script. Like I never knew about like Cesar and Scarface. I never knew about that at all. Like I I feel like I have a good enough collection of Doom stuff, but that had not ever been in my collection before. So learning about that was something that I didn't even expect. So this whole project was kind of like an eye opener to me, just to learning about what made Doom Doom, and yeah, it was just like an eye opening experience.
and just to the point that you were talking about, it being eye opening. This free web comic, as short as it is still super informative. There are things that will pop up that will force you to do that background research, look into the other things and the other goings on that Doom had, and of course his other projects and influences, because it doesn't start or end with him, right? It's a continuation of the influences he's picked up and then the ones he's passed on to folks after him. And I'm curious. I'm just a writer. I wish I could visually express myself. My father's a painter, but I could never
Nice.
draw. I would love to, but when I'm writing and I'm in a particular mood, I have my artists that I would listen to get me into that headspace. What was that process like? Are you listening to Doom while this is going on? Are you listening to some other folks to get a feel for where you want to go visually with this project? What did that look like?
I mean, initially, just for the roughing out process, I have like my own playlist of stuff just to get me in a more energetic vibe. But Troy actually put together a playlist, like a YouTube playlist, just to like listen to while I would read through the script. And that's what I was listening to majority for the creation of the comic for the most part. And I sprinkled in with some of my own playlists and whatnot, but it was mostly doing just to get the vibe and then get the energy right.
Yeah, and it's funny too. I mean, not that stylistically there was overlap, but it made me think of like Samurai Champloo and Cowboy Bebop, the anime part of like black culture. and how big that is in that scene. And it's the sound. That's why I'm thinking. I'm like, why is that? Why am I like having so many vibes of like deep cut anime, like these old school animes? But that's because a lot of that sound was there. And I saw like a few videos on YouTube of people using um, like MF Doom sounds over like a Cowboy Bebop scene, and it was just crazy to think of that kind of overlap that exists in the way people examine his music, at least now. Um,
Right.
when,
And
when, yeah, go ahead.
and it's crazy that you bring that up because sorry, right as I was starting the comic, I just started watching Samurai Champloo back over again. So that in a way that influenced it too. So yeah, it's crazy you brought that up. Yeah.
It's almost unavoidable. There's a man. There's a I know it's an outdated ass word, but there's a lot of swagger with certain anime characters and certain anime scenery that just exude like this hip hop vibe. And I don't know what it is, but if you watch a particular anime, you could be like, oh, this is like peak anime. But there are just some that live on the fringes that just, I mean, they ooze a sort of a dope vibe. And I
Yeah.
don't know what it is. I don't know how they do it. I don't know if maybe stylistically or like visually maybe, but
I think some of it is it's a respect of the culture. Some the ones I think of, they have a somewhat respect of the culture that inspired them, and that's what makes them stand out to most just like regular animes or whatever. But I think that's what makes it stand out. It's like a respect of the culture because there's another anime that I'm thinking of. Um, it's a Brazilian anime. Michiko the Hatchin. It's an anime that's basically based in Brazil, but it has so much like preservation for that culture, that Brazilian style, that it just oozes that through the animation. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah, you know what I'm saying? And if not stylistically, then maybe politically, like something like the Boondocks, where
Yeah.
you're just 100% leaning into it, and it's like you camp it up to the point where it still is just a banger, but it's a really beautiful coming together of sound, of the visual, of just the artistic expression, and what y'all ultimately end up putting together gave me those same vibes. So it was super
Yeah.
dope to get to see, man. Um,
Thank you, man. Thank
it ultimately, what do you hope fans can take away from just being exposed to this little web comic, whether they're new fans of Doom or old? At the end of the day, what kind of feelings do you want people to have about this, and how about Doom, really?
you. Right. Man, I just wanted to be able to bring fans of all kinds together. I know that is very corny to say, but I just wanted to appease the old fans, let them see like the little influences and the things that make them think of, their favorite moments, their favorite Doom lyrics, and then to interest new fans to dive in a little more about, learning about Doom, learning about who Doom was, who he was musically. I know he was a private dude, but who he was as a person, his beginnings, and just grow to love him, through the way that we all loved him, through the music, through the sounds, through the personality.
I don't think that's at all corny, man. I think it's actually overlooked, especially now we live in a like peak divisive time. I think
Yeah,
much more than when I was younger, and something like that is a message that I think will resonate with folks across so many different boundaries and so many different, identities and orientations and such. And I think it's a necessary one. But again, I'm just super excited for folks to get to engage with this. Um, Again, thank you so much for sitting down and talking to me
no
about
problem,
this.
man.
And before I let you go, where can fans and folks who are just now learning about you and your work, where can they find you? Where can they follow you online?
Well, you can follow me on Instagram, Silence Mac, all one word. Twitter, it's weird. It's a weird name, but Shizuka Sam on Twitter, and SmackIllustrations.com. That's my blog. It'll lead you to like the main sites and whatnot. And and the RevTimes.com. That's my other webcomic that I do. And yeah, that's about it. I'm I'm an open book sometimes, but just hit me up. I'm available.
Sean, you're a real one, bro. I appreciate talking to you. I've no doubt we'll talk again in the future because you got hella talent, man,
Thank
and
you, man.
I'm just excited to see the work you got coming your way.
Thank you, man. I appreciate this. I
Most
appreciate the
definitely.
time.
Me and Keith over at the blog, and I mean the project y'all were working on is really just incredible, super dope.
Thanks, man.
I know last October was tough for folks because it seemed so unexpected for
Yeah, yeah,
to pass, and
yeah.
in the grand scheme of things, we were all hoping for maybe a little more recognition because I know he's still got a cult following that's not as large as we'd like it to be, but that project was really beautiful. So it was awesome to see that come together. Um,
Yeah, thanks, man.
how's the year been for you, for starters?
That's a God, that's such a loaded question, right? But I was happy to be out of 2020, and then like what the Capitol riots happened, like was it a month later. I mean, outside of that, I mean, it's kind of been business as usual. Like, I still have a job, which is always nice,
Hmm. Hmm.
and got engaged, which is also nice.
Awesome, congrats.
I wrote about this on my blog, but the last 2020 was so intense and so hectic, just like in
Hmm.
general for everybody. Despite the fact that we were all kind of like staying in place, right? That I like to write, and I just couldn't do anything that wasn't. I couldn't write anything that wasn't related to work. And I kept kicking myself because I kept seeing people post over and over again. Oh, if this is the time to be creative, this is the time to be creative, et cetera, et cetera. And I just wasn't really, I didn't feel like I was doing it. Like, you know what I mean? Like I write about comics for my job. That's part of what I do. I work for Previous World and I work for Diamond Comic Distributors. But I wanted to do something of my own. And, uh, you know, Doom, for lack of a better term, was kind of like a muse for me. And like, I think I only just realized that in this past week, where it was sort of like it's like I would listen to his music while I was writing. You know what I mean? It would put me in a mood to do these things, and I think it was just the creative spirit of his music that like just kind of carried me. And so it wasn't until this past week that I realized like losing him, I lost a muse. Like on my blog, I listed like 11 people that like are like I consider like inspirational to me. Who like kind of like I see them do something I'm like, oh man, I need to get back on this, and he was definitely one of them. And to kind of lose him, uh, is particularly on December 31st. I mean, he died in October, but we didn't find out until the 31st, right? The last day was like just like God damn it, like
Hmm.
I was joking. I just bought this phone, and I like happened to be on my computer still working on New Year's, and I looked at my phone. I just opened up the app and opened one of the apps, and it said MF Doom, rest in peace. And I was like, fuck. Like
Yeah.
I threw the phone down, like a new phone. I threw it down. So yeah, it was a disappointing way to start walking into the new year, but
Hmm.
but I'm glad that we were able to make this happen, and I was inspired by his passing to commit something finally, after a year of not really doing stuff that I thought was like my full creative abilities.
Yeah, and I think he occupied a strange space, and I don't mean strange in the negative sense at all. I just mean a unique space, a space that there was so much overlap because there were folks who listened to him that I would have never expected, right? You come from all different
Totally.
walks of life and not a sort of typical hip hop head or whatever. So he broke the mold, and that influence, like you said, is so palpable. And I just really loved the artistic style that the webcomic was able to just communicate. And
Yeah.
I know for sure if he was still around, man, he would have appreciated that. Could you talk a little bit about your own personal journey as an artist, as a creator, how that fluctuated, and obviously throughout all that, how Doom's like influenced how you
Oh
put
yeah,
things down?
yeah. I mean, I went into this kind of like, all right, I want to do something that commemorates him. I didn't quite know what that was. I kind of came up with this very loose concept, and I'm glad I never finished. Which was kind of going to be like, Doom, the ultimate villain. I mean, it's kind of fun. It sounds fun on paper, but what I had, I didn't feel like that great about. But the original rough draft was like, Doom, the ultimate villain, has defeated everybody, and what is at the end of you defeating everyone, and I kind of felt like it was a little too melancholy, and which is, I mean, that's the space I kind of operate in sometimes. And I started just kind of talking to people in my immediate circle, like, I'm thinking about doing this, like, let me throw this around and see how you feel about it. And everybody I talked to was like, you're doing an MF Doom comic, awesome. I actually talked to one artist beforehand, and I told him what I was working with. This idea of like the superheroes all defeated, and the super villain Doom is at the end of his journey as the villain. And he gave me a note back, which was like, "Yeah, we can work it out," which told me a lot right then and there.
Mm-hmm.
And then like I finally brought it over to Maia Crown, who is the editor on this comic. And also she managed a lot of like the press for this comic as well. And the first thing she says, Troy, and I think it's because she's familiar with the stuff I write. She's like, Troy, don't make it dark. Like she was like, motherfuckers don't want dark right now. And I was like, you know what? You have a very good point. You're absolutely right about that. Like I think I try to do fun stuff, but I also know that I do have a dark sense of humor, and so that my version of funny might not be necessarily all that uplifting to feel.
Right.
So I went back to drawing board, and I didn't really talk to anybody. I realized like, okay, I got the feedback I wanted, so I didn't really talk with anybody about what I was going to do next. And so I said the best thing I can possibly do is research. And so I knew what I knew about Doom, but I'm not big into the whole celebrity culture thing. Like, and neither was Doom, which I think was actually pretty fitting. I wasn't really interested in his personal life, like I was always kind of one of those fans who's like, I just want the music. Like I assumed that he was wearing the mask for a reason. And that was enough for me. And I mean, I knew that he had belonged to KMD, of course, and I know that his brother passed away and then he kind of disappeared for a couple of years, but I didn't know how deep that went. And so the first thing that happened when I started rewriting this is I did research and I found out a lot more about him personally, probably more than I wanted to find out. Because like, sometimes you don't want to, it's almost like you don't want to meet your heroes type of thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, the process, it kind of became very clear that, okay, first of all, my original concept was too much about me. Especially the points in the script where I was like, trying to talk about how rap sucks these days, blah, blah, blah. I was being old man shaking fists in the cloud. And then, so I was like, don't make it about you. Like, I was like, just listen to what he's been saying. And not even just in the lyrics, look at the interviews, the few interviews he's done. Find out what it is that's at the heart of why he took this persona. And I kind of suspected it probably had more to do than just his brother's death, right? And what his philosophy on music and creativity is. And I discovered this Red Bull Academy interview on YouTube that he did. And I also discovered this great article from this book called Check the Technique about the history of KMD. And I kind of found, between those two things, I found, in addition to a bunch of other things, I found the story I wanted to tell. And that story ultimately boiled down to what he said, which is that he wore the mask because hip hop's become too much about the glamour and too much about the showboating and like too much about the just the flashiness, right? Like I joked the other day that I come from a generation of my version of hip hop that I came into was West Coast rap. Which was it was definitely more grimy, but it also kind of segued pretty quickly into Puff Daddy and Mace wearing red trash bags in a wind tunnel and, dancing to remade disco songs. So it was just very flashy. And not to knock that because I grew up on that stuff too. But I understood exactly where it came from because, on some level, as much as we talk about the West Coast stuff being grimy, you also kind of have to acknowledge, there was a lot of flexing that was involved in it, and that flexing caused us to lose Tupac and Biggie, you know what I mean? And it also causes us to lose Eazy-E in some ways, if you want to go there. And so I understood immediately what he meant by that. Like, he was trying to take away the fakeness in a lot of ways of rap and try to provide something that was oddly enough real, even though it was super fictional. And I think that's kind of the wonderful irony of MF Doom is like in becoming fictional and becoming mythological, he became more real than a lot of rappers. And so that ended up being my guiding light through the whole process. I talked a little bit to Smack about it, just telling him, this is where I'm going with this. I kind of kept it tight to the vest. I didn't really tell Crown too much about what I was doing with the story, just because I felt it, like this was it. And I didn't want anybody else to talk me out of it. And, when you know, and that's kind of what I ran with. And once I started seeing I over dialogue, I tend to always over dialogue. And so once I got the artwork in, I just started taking stuff out. I was trying to work lyrics into every panel. I threw that out. And I kind of settled on two lyrics that I particularly love, which is All Bets Off, the villain's got the dice rigged. And Doom, not to be confused with Nobody, which is from Crosshairs. And I kind of left it alone outside of that. I said, this is it. I think the visuals speak for themselves. I made sure to provide a lot of references for Smack, for the visuals, and also the Easter eggs in general for people who are aware of MF Doom. So yeah, that was a process. So, it took maybe about a couple of months, but I mean that's just workshopping it in general and kind of looking at what the artist brings back in and kind of deciding I don't need all this other stuff that I threw into it. So what you got was this cool 6-pager I did.
And I think the organic element of piecing this project together really shines through, not just artistically, but it's a feeling that's emitted not only from his music, but from the influence that he has on folks like yourself. And then you create this kind of art, and it's a cycle. It's almost like reciprocal, but it really shows. And I'm wondering what do you ultimately hope, fans new and old to Doom, what do you hope they can take away from this free webcomic that is just a brief, it's just a brief send off for someone who was supremely influential in more ways than one? What do you hope fans can take away from that?
Well, actually, first of all, I just want to point out, that reciprocal kind of unrefined nature, that organicness. I think that's definitely what it needed to be. You listen to something like Operation Doomsday, and you kind of realize early on, or you've all heard this, this idea that he wasn't recording in a studio, he wasn't recording in a booth, he basically went in a closet and just started rapping, So it needed to be that kind of free roaming, that kind of raw, that kind of almost careless in some ways, and not heavily polished. And so I'm glad that comes through. In terms of what people get from it, man, I'm just kind of look, I just hope people enjoy it. I hope that I didn't want to disrespect his family. And I wanted to make sure that it's clear to people that this is done completely out of love and completely out of respect for his work. And I want people to understand that this is just it's just a love letter to somebody I thought that somebody that influenced me in a major way. So that would be the big takeaway.
I have no doubt folks are going to be able to do that. It's a really beautiful, appreciation, like you said, a sort of a love letter, and I totally dug it. And again, the art is phenomenal. It's no wonder your resume is what it is. And I'm excited for folks to get their hands on this. And yeah, man, I appreciate getting to talk to you today. I look forward to getting to talk to you in the future because I know you're going to have some more bomb projects coming out. Yeah. And yeah, man, where can folks follow you if they're looking to keep to stay in the loop?
Yeah, just follow me on, I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Medium, actually. Just follow me at TJA Comics. You can find me pretty much anywhere from there. Or just type in Troy Jeffrey Allen in Google, and I'll come up. And I'm actually glad that my name comes up next to them doing that.
Yeah, it's dope now too, and that's again a really charming moment of reciprocity. So
Yeah,
Troy, I appreciated talking with you, brother, and I look forward to speaking with you again in the future.
All right, thanks, Jamal. I appreciate it, man.
I'm still shook that October came and went, and right at the end of 2020, we get this really terrible news of the passing of one of hip hop's most under the radar influential kind of figures, but to see the outpouring of love and support in terms of the influence Doom's had on folks was, it was incredible. For starters, how did you come to work on this project, and what was it like working on All Caps?
Well, Crown reached out to me via email. We've been in touch on social media for a while now. We met each other, a few times at cons and whatnot. And this project, came to her, and then she needed a letterer, and immediately, she just reached out to me, and I was stoked, because I'm always, for anything related to hip hop culture, that's where I live, So when she told me, she was thinking about doing this project for Doom, I was like, yep, put me on, let's go. And, it just snowballed from there, which just made it happen.
The finished product looks incredible. Really, really beautiful, love letter that y'all put together.
Yeah.
I was curious, lettering is or at least not from this is from like a total amateur, so I don't understand the nuances of lettering, but lettering seems to be the glue that keeps together the project, that folks might overlook, and so what kind of care and what kind of attention to detail were you feeling or thinking about when it came to lettering this project in particular?
Mainly for me, it's just evoking that same, Doom sense. We've seen like some of the cover art, that he's put out there in the past, and we wanted to capture that essence. And so that was my thing going into this, where I just wanted to make it feel like an actual Doom project. Like if we were part of the production of or design of whatever next thing he would come out with, we wanted to put that fingerprint on it. And so when I was thinking about the lettering, I wanted it to sort of just evoke that same sense where you feel that boom bap in the sound effects and everything. You could really feel the vibe of it going through and carrying over. Even the captions, we tried to make them have this sort of metallic. I mean, it's hardly noticeable in the small screen, but when you get close up, you can see that metallic touch to it. So it's just, really just small touches that we were trying to do, and just, make it feel like a true Doom project.
I was telling Troy, Doom occupied such a strange space, and I don't want the word strange to be taken like negatively, but such a unique, almost indescribable. Like there are things there are words you couldn't use to describe his sound. So what was that like? How, at least headspace wise, what did you do to kind of get yourself in the position to be like, all right, this is going to be my artistic approach, this is going to be how I'm going to make things look? Did you listen to his music a lot while you were drawing up ideas, or was it a matter of trying to go through memories or feelings or emotions?
The main thing for me is just getting into that world, that space, and so just putting on the beats and just letting them rock, and you start vibing. You see him in the studio in our first page, and so you just start vibing with that, and just kind of just play off that, and those sounds, those drum beats and everything, those bass lines. You just you try and touch those points when you're working. For me, like you were saying, he's so enigmatic. So it's just like, how do you capture that? How do you put that in the page? And so it's just, you just listen to the rhymes, listen to him spit, and you could feel it. It just comes through on the page when you start working.
It's one of those things, like I assume energy wise, you just got to let it take you.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And just let the process go.
Just let it flow.
Wherever.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. I'm a writer. My father's a painter, but in terms of the visual arts, that's never been my, my strength. And I've always envied that. I've always wanted to be able to create visually, even though I just write and I'm putting words down and maybe I can describe a thing and make you
Yeah.
feel or see or touch or
Well, that's the
whatever.
cool thing about
But
comics, because you're marrying that writing with the art. And so like that's the
Mhm.
beautiful thing about this. And that's the beautiful thing about this particular project, because you know, we're not, you know, overstressing the writing. We're not overstressing the art. It's all coming together equally. And you can just see for yourself, just going down through you know, year after year of what was going on, and just you know, just kind of go with it, just follow the path and end up where we end up.
I was just gonna say that there's something. It's difficult again to describe, but you could feel it. When I'm looking at the lettering and just the very small space that the year itself, the numbers take up on the
Mhm.
panel, it just reminds me of either hearing tracks for the first time or trying to describe to your friend, yo, you gotta listen to this dude because it's like kind of at a loss for words, and even those few words on the panel describe how I'm feeling at that time. Like, wow, man, this is something really significant. It was really appropriate, considering I think while he was alive, I don't know that he got as much attention as
Right.
he deserved.
Nah, I don't think so either. You know, it's like even for myself, I consider myself a very avid hip hop fan, and I came on to Doom very late in I'd say around early 2000s, when he'd already produced a bunch of stuff. Even before that, the reason I figured it out what was going on, and we talked about this enigmatic persona or whatever, is a friend of mine was telling me, "Yo, you remember this cat? He was on KMD's, and he was on that gas face cut with Pete Nice." And I was like, what? Wait, let me go back to third base and listen to Gas Face. And I was like, oh, okay. And now you follow that into his path musically, and it's so different listening to that old stuff to the new stuff. Is just, but you know, you could see how this persona was created. Like it's just really cool to just follow that path. And that's sort of what we were trying to touch on, you know, going through his career each year. And you just, you know, you fill in the blank with your own personal experiences. How you were saying, you know, it takes you through that year, and you're like, oh, I remember that was the mad villainy, that was food. And you just kind of like, okay, I know what was going on in this time period, and it just takes me there.
It was what's that, like a time capsule? I'm
Yeah.
stepping I'm
Yep.
stepping out of one, and it was so crazy to see those years, man, because like you said, I feel especially at the time that I discovered Doom, that I'm like, whoa, where have I been like
Mhm.
under a rock or something? And it was
Right.
only because I was in high school, I was an avid sneaker head, so I was just all up on Jordans and SBs and stuff. And at one of the conventions, I saw a dude who had a shirt with like some Doom art on it. And I was like,
Mhm.
yo, that shit is so dope. But well, what is that? And boom, like it's,
Yeah.
it's from there. And it wasn't even sonically, it was just because of the art. So
Visual.
he's got the visual influence down. And even
Mhm.
now there are artists who live in the orbit of Doom, and we don't even, folks
Yeah.
don't really, capture that. I think of dudes like Thundercat and Tyler Creator, folks
Tyler
who,
Creator. Yep.
you know what I'm saying? You're on this axis that was really created by Doom.
Yeah. Yep.
And so, what was your favorite part of this project? I know Troy was saying he found out a lot of new stuff about Doom. Doom was a super private
Yeah.
individual. So maybe finding some of those things out was not as pleasant as he was hoping. But for the most part, I'm sure there were things you took away from this.
Oh, for sure. Just like Troy was saying, then for myself, I anytime I'm getting into a lettering project, I look for sort of visual influences. And so I'm looking back through a catalog of art and just seeing new stuff that I hadn't stumbled upon before. And it's just like, all right, so um just seeing all the different styles that were put in visually into different projects that he was on, whether it was you know, the famous one, Mad Villainy. You could see that because like you could close your eyes and envision it, but like you could see a bunch of other stuff and that we kind of, you know, took and put into this all caps project. And so just seeing, you know, that whole swath of work really was the coolest part for me. Just kind of taking from that and seeing stuff, because I'm a visual person. That's my thing, you know.
Yeah, most definitely. And the project, it hits, man. It's beautiful, and of course, it being a free product, that doesn't often happen, especially after someone's passed. We've seen
Hmm.
some really sort of heinous, you know, events that would follow, people trying to scalp items that belong.
Cash in on it.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
exactly. Which
Yep.
of course is problematic. Um, but again, y'all do this with this organic integrity and thoughtfulness. And what do you hope fans can take away from this webcomic when they're done? Either new fans of Doom or old.
As for new fans, I just hope, you see this and you want to learn more, like, and just find out whether it's historically what Doom meant to the culture, or you just listen to the rhymes, listen to that, and just get influenced that way. And I think for fans like myself and the other people on this project, and just people who've known about Doom for a while, just sort of feel this tribute, and understand, we are trying to represent a man who was important to hip hop. Didn't get enough appreciation in the time we was here, and we can sort of look at him and appreciate him now.
Yeah, he's definitely starting to get it now, and with inspirational work like the one your team put together, it's no telling the attention he's getting now,
Hmm.
and the attention that he needed to be getting.
Yeah.
Darren, I really appreciated talking to you, brother. Where can folks find you, find your work? Where you at online?
Find me on social media, at Darren Bennett on Twitter. I'm, famously on there. Anybody could reach out to me, and I love to interact and engage with people. Facebook as well, at Darren Bennett, or at D Bennett, I believe, on Facebook. But my website for my company, at andworlddesign.com. And yeah, just you'll see me in the comics as well.
Darren, I appreciate it, brother, and I'm glad we got to talk. I have no doubt we'll get to talk in the future with the projects coming your way. Thank you again, boss,
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
on this really incredible project that you started and put this team together, and just a really beautiful tribute to Doom. Before we get into it, can you talk a little bit about your journey as an artist and creator, and then of course as the CEO and founder of MECCAcon?
Yes, so thank you for agreeing to cover our mini comic. First of all, I've been family with Nerds to Color for quite some time. I started off in comics community through a local convention called Motor City Black Age. And I worked with him for quite some years, and I just decided to branch off and start my own. So I created MECCAcon, Midwest Ethnic Convention for Comics and Arts, in 2013, and our first year was 2014. So not only do I throw comic book conventions and international film festivals, and my film festivals are registered with Ava's company, Array, which of course was formerly a firm. I was her first film festival she ever had. Still a prominent film festival in her company, Array. And then I'm also over an artist residency program, which also, just like my film festival and convention, they travel nationally and globally as well. And then I also am an executive manager, so I manage a lot of different clients, including those that are in comics and animation.
You definitely have several different hats on, and you just seem to be juggling so much. Got your hands on so many really incredible and moving projects. What brought you to starting this, the All Caps project? I know when Doom passed in October, it really took the hip hop world by surprise. And unfortunately, before his passing, there wasn't a lot of attention, or at least the attention he deserved. But now you've got this really beautiful and free web comic that y'all put together. How did this come about?
Well, it came about when because Troy was a huge Doom head, and I'm a large Doom head, but Troy was like a Doom head. I'm more Dilla than Doom, but I'm still Doom, right? So he reached out to me because we've done years of work together, also through MECCAcon and BSAM, Black Speculative Arts Move, which is another convention I co-founded. Um, so he's been doing work with me for years. he wanted me to be his senior editor for this project. So at first he wanted a longer one, and then we snipped it to like 6 to 10 pages, and he wanted me to help him put a team together. So that's how it came about.
You know, a lot of a lot of folks were surprised, right, when his passing was revealed to the public, um, after several weeks. You know, it happened in October, and then we hear about it in December. Um, for you, what did that moment mean? You know, when that news hit, and to be so connected to the hip hop world, and of course being a hip hop head and a Doom head, what was your initial, you know, emotional, mental response, considering that this came at the end of an already trying year?
Yeah. The fact that it came, that's what I was going to touch on. Um, the fact that we found out right before our new year started, right? The calendar new year, because I don't go by that new year, but you know, the fact that that is how our vibrations were set into the next year was pretty low. You know, it was pretty sad. It was, you know, I'm a hip hop head, period. Like I'm a huge hip hop head. Like I throw hip hop panels all the time with MECCAcon, like really dope ass hip hop panels with MECCAcon. And, you know, it was very devastating because he was such a prominent fixture in hip hop, but he was prominent underground. And, you know, he was like the king of underground. Don't worry about what I look like, worry about what I do. You know, I don't need a chain. I just need this work. Just give me my check. I don't need the flash. Just make sure I get paid. You know, he was the king of that. And it was just, you know, is such a prominent fixture in the history of music, period. You know, not just hip hop, but producing, period. You know, we needed people like that that were not focused on the flashy, the gimmicky, the I need my face in this video, and I, you know, bitches, and like he didn't care about any of that. You know, he didn't care about any of that. So you know, we needed people of his mental caliber in hip hop, and even though he's gone, you know, I definitely am grateful for the space that he gave us while he was here because it was just so necessary. He's such a prominent producer. Not just, you know, a dope ass rapper, which he also was, but like his producing was insane. And you know it was because look at the other producers he worked with. He only worked with the top. You know, Dilla did not fuck with everybody. It's pretty known. Dilla ain't for, if you was just okay, Dilla ain't fuck with you. So Dilla only used to rock with the absolute top producers, and he did quite a lot of extensive work with Doom. And it's just, you know, it was really sad when it happened. It came out of absolutely nowhere. You know, we had a few days with DMX. Doom just gone, you know, just out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just devastating. Black Rob out, you know, but you
Hmm.
know, it's just really devastating. It's really because they're like back to back to back.
And it was even more surprising to see folks learn about Doom and his influence on so many of the artists that live in his orbit still.
Right.
And so it was incredible to see that outpouring of, oh snap, like I have heard this shit in forever, or you know, I was telling, you know, I was telling Troy, I was just like, I found out about Doom way later than I had wanted. You know, early 2000s, I'm in high school, I'm a sneakerhead, and someone's wearing some really dope shit on their shirt. I'm like, yo, who is that? Or what is that art about? And it's Doom, it's the mask, you know, and the rest is history. But to to find out how much more appreciation he's getting now, it's bittersweet, you know.
Yeah, it
And
is. It is.
and
It is. And sometimes, you know, unfortunately, that's how people start getting more known after they're gone, but they'll be almost homeless while they're alive. It's just really sad. Like Black Rob. What happened with Black Rob makes zero amounts of sense to me, like zero. And now everybody, all the celebrities are praising him, and I loved you so much. Well, then if all these people loved him, he shouldn't have been homeless. At minimum, he shouldn't have been homeless.
Absolutely.
At minimum, y'all could have got him an apartment somewhere, even if it was a studio. Even if it was a studio, you should have did something. It just doesn't make any sense to me because Black Rob was out cold. So, same with Doom. Doom had ups and downs and ups and downs and ups and downs. But Doom was a legend. And we wanted to make sure that we honored him with this project to where it would appease everybody, and it would be 6 pages. So people who don't read comics will still read this because it's in, it's out, and then you can still brag and say you read a comic, even though it's only 6 damn pages.
Yeah.
So it was so many reasons why we did save money. It definitely saved time. You could put it on more mediums because it's digital. So it's just a whole bunch of reasons that we did what we did for the reasons that we did it.
And to make it free, again, just doubles down on how beautiful this tribute is, because we've seen in the past year when folks have passed and how exploitive that moment has become. So to make this a free tribute and a love letter is beyond appropriate and just, again, really touching. What was your favorite part of this project? Whether it was you learned something new about Doom or something about the creative process, but what did you really love about this and what you took away from it?
This specific project, what I love about it is how the team that I put together for this project worked so well together. Smack was so perfect for Troy's words. Smack was over and beyond perfect for a Doom comic, period, because Doom is based on Doom, right? Dr. Doom, and it's like the old school of comics. And Smack has that style of old school comics, like very much that style where you see the black and white texture on old school comics like Archie and stuff. The facial features that he's known for drawing like is very old school. And then Lewis is one of the coldest colorists in the industry by far, and he understood the assignment. He highlighted fluorescent colors. It's like he just did an outstanding job with the colors. And then Duran, I mean, please, it's Duran Bennett. So like it was nothing. It was nothing for me to put the team together, and I'm just happy that everybody worked well. I think that's what honestly my favorite part of it was, like how well this team for this book worked well together. And it was great, and everybody was proud of the outcome of it.
And the organic chemistry is there. You're a mastermind for having the eye for this and for your team to be able to work together and produce something beautiful. It's really clear. It's clear how hard y'all work together and how meaningful this moment was. What are you hoping that fans who are either new to Doom's music or old, what do you hope they take away from this free webcomic? What do you hope people who maybe even new to comics in general?
So that's good that you asked me that, because that's what I want to touch on. I want fans to understand that they can make a comic. They can start working on a comic tomorrow. You don't have to have 24, 28, 32, 100 pages. You don't have to have printed books. You can work on a mini comic. You can do a one-shot comic that can be 4 pages, 6 pages, 12 pages. You can do a 1-page comic and have 6 to 10 panels on there. You could turn this into an NFT. You could turn this into something that you would sell Bitcoin with. Like, you can do so many different things. You can turn a 1-page comic and get bags off of that, let alone a 6-page comic. You could turn that where you're saving your money and you're working on a comic right now and you've written your whole story and you like, oh shit, I just split the script, and it's like 70 pages. Split them up mini series, turn them into web comics, sell them for 99 cents to $3 for digital, and flip your money. If you have to pay for artists, that's way less money that you're paying that artist to do 1 page, 2 page, 6 pages than doing average 28 pages. It's so many different things. Like if you don't want to pay a colorist, make sure that your penciler, or make sure that your inker is an extremely good inker that knows how to do noir. So your inking is so out cold, won't nobody even care that it's not colored. So it's so many ways that you can save money creating a comic book and still be out here in the community. You're networking, you're brand new, so you definitely don't need 28 pages. You know, these brand new artists, especially these clubhouse babies that I have so many of now that have adopted me as their mother, they want comics out because, you know, they see us and they see people like vets or people in the industry or people like myself that's in the background industry, and they see what's going on and they want to do it, but they're so intimidated because it costs more than what they think. So, you know, pushing the idea of mini web comics is a thing that needs to be highlighted more.
It definitely spoke to me, and I'm glad you touched on the point that anyone can create the thing as
Yeah.
long as you commit to that, because that's what I've been working on. I've been working on that for a few years. My own webcomic, Afrofuturism, is everything to me, and so I get stuck in my head sometimes. So this was an influential, an inspirational project for so many reasons.
Thank you.
And so, and thank you and the team for putting this together. Where can folks find you, find more information about MECCAcon? And like we said, it's the webcomic itself is over on the Nerds of Color blog, but where can folks learn and follow Crown?
So you can follow me anywhere free with a login, MECCAcon, MECCACON, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Tumblr, all things Clubhouse. I have the largest comic book centered Clubhouse on the whole app. I'm in the top 10 of book clubs of the entire app as well. We don't talk about Marvel, DC, Batman, Blue Man, Superman, White Man all day. We talk about indie shit. We talk about the progression of our own community as well as Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, Hound, Image. Because, shout out to Bitterroot, shout out to Excellence. So, my friends get bags with them as well. So we definitely talk about that. Yeah, so you just find me anywhere free with a login. I'm always MECCAcon, MECCACON. And definitely LinkedIn.
Crown, thank you so much for not only being an icon, but an inspiration. The work that you continue to do is moving so many people. And I'm just excited to see the work y'all got for us in the future.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you. And thank you for calling me Maia, not Maya today.
I got you. That was on me. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you again. Thank you for your time and many blessings your way.
All right. Thank you. No problem.